Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley. We're here today. We're going to be talking about really how grief can be a doorway to expansion, how we can experience suffering or grief or things that are really hard, and that it expands us to feel the world, to connect with the world, everything in it, in a whole new way. That has been my experience over and over throughout my life as I have endured suffering, really hard times. I usually come out of it with more connection, or at least more peace. However, of course, when my daughter died, when Keira died, I couldn't see that I would ever find peace. It just felt like, how could this possibly be? And that my life was over. But what I have found is that's actually not true. And so I'm here to offer hope. I'm here to, for me, it's only been a year and a half. And I would hear that, this was a lifelong thing and you carry grief, and it felt very like you carry grief forever. And it never, ever goes away. And that is partially true. But for somebody in early grief or in a lot of suffering, that felt really scary to me. Because what that felt like to me meant that I was going to feel this bad forever, which is not what people were saying, but it's the way I felt. And so to offer the hope that it's not like I would hear like, oh, it took me 4 years and I finally, or 3 years, or you would hear in child loss, you will hear that it's not going to get better. The second year's harder. And that might be true for people, but it has not been true for me. And we really have to stay present in this moment, because if my mind starts thinking how I'm going to feel next week, then I'm not here in this moment and I can start having anticipatory suffering. So it has only been a year and a half, and I really feel really good and very connected. The grief of my daughter dying opened me up to this wild amount of freedom and expansion. And it's not because time healed. It's not because I got over the fact that my child died. That's not a thing. Nobody would. I mean, I think everybody understands that. That's because my level of connection to her and to everything expanded exponentially. And so not just like people saying to me, oh, she's always in your heart. Like, what does that even mean? I didn't know what that meant. All I knew is she wasn't physically here. But experiencing the deep pain of suffering, whether it's grief, like something as tragic as what happened with Keira and I, or it's some other kind of trauma or something in your life, through suffering, we really can expand our hearts and expand our level of ability to experience the world. And I've known this because I've experienced it in my life through walking through really hard things. I usually come out the other side, kind of more connected, more appreciative of every single day, present, all of those things. So that had been my experience through suffering. And it's nice to know when you're suffering that things will get better and that maybe it's trying to teach you something. So I held that mindset for a long time. But when my daughter died, how do you hold that mindset? It felt impossible. I didn't have a choice but to fully experience it. And of course, I mean, we don't have a choice. So in the past, I wouldn't feel like a lot of feelings. That's just the truth about me. I would push them down until I got so anxious. I would tell myself I didn't need to feel. Several years before Keira died, I did go through this massive transformation through a lot of pain where I really learned about myself that I needed to feel. I don't think that's coincidence. I was super intentional about this, trying to allow myself to feel every single thing. So I had spent a couple years of practicing. I had some animals die, and instead of just going, I'm fine, it's just a cat, as long as my kids are okay, I'm fine, I let myself cry. I let myself feel. I let myself feel anxious. I let myself feel it in my body. I talked about the way that I felt. Every night I would write in my journal, I feel this way. I didn't even know how I felt before that. And so I had to put words to my feelings so I could be really intentional about it. So I had been doing that, the words to my feelings. And and really allowing myself to feel, crying when I needed to cry, because when I wasn't doing that, the result was really intense anxiety. And through a lot of work, I realized it was because I had been pushing down my feelings. Don't feel anything, and talking myself out of it because somebody always has it worse. So through Keira's transition, I was able to really feel. And I don't think that you have a choice in this. I don't think that we have a choice as mothers or fathers that when your child dies. However, the way that I really just didn't hold it back for 1 second. I didn't try to control my grief in front of my children. I didn't try to control it in front of my friends. I didn't try to stop myself, not once, from allowing myself to fully feel the experience. And I think it was like this one time in my life where I fully was just like, of course I feel this way. And I'm not going to apologize for crying. Not for 1 second. Of course I'm crying. And I'm not someone that cries all the time before this, but I did. I cried and I cried and I cried. I cried in front of everyone. I cried on walks. I cried in yoga class. I still cry very often. I don't hide it. So I felt and I felt and I felt. And I had a lot of practices that I did. And I'll be sharing about that in next week on my solo episode, is a lot of these rituals that I did. Whatever anyone needs to do and feels is right to do to make it through the next minute is what they should be doing. But I did have certain things that I did that helped me live through the worst possible thing. So I want to get to the fact that we do expand and connect on a deep level, because what happened when my daughter died, I died with her, essentially. Becky Bradley, my identity, gone. I had been an educator for 25 years. Over. I didn't know it was my last day, and it was my last day. I was done. It was over. So that in itself, without my child dying, would have been a huge transition. And I get that. Like, that would be hard. So that happens, and everyone around me, my children now that I was they were like, I wouldn't surrender my children, So Keira dies, and then I've got my other 3 children and my daughter-in-law, so essentially 4, that are experiencing deep, deep, deep pain that I can't do anything about. And so it was just, everything. I would describe it as like a bomb going off. I'm at the center of a bomb because everything in my life is being stripped away from me. All these kids that I loved that came into my house that were friends with Keira, heartbroken, shattered. My children, shattered. My parents, shattered. My best friends of 35 years, shattered. Everyone. So I think in that, ultimate just tearing down of everything inside of me, I had nothing left but to just fully feel. And I felt everything. Every single moment. I had no space. I had nothing left. And I feel like when you strip away everything, it leaves this very deep, deep connection and ability to hear the truth of who I am and my connection to everything and everyone, including Keira. She was trying to show me, but my mind, my thoughts could get really busy with other things, But when this happened, there was nothing left. She was all I could think about. And my heart was breaking. I mean, for anybody that has experienced this level of pain and grief, they understand it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like your body could physically live through something like this. It's just really physically really hard, and obviously mentally, emotionally, spiritually, every part of anything. It was so hard that I was able to almost like at some point rise above myself and watch myself being asked by this human experience to feel something that I couldn't believe I was being asked to feel. I mean, even talking about it, it's so intense. I couldn't believe I was being asked to feel this. But in feeling so deeply, so deeply, it expanded my level to feel everything else. It expanded my level to feel everything else. It showed me a wild connection to everything and everyone. And it's not just that I'm appreciating the flowers and the birds, because I promise you I am. I was just so grateful. I couldn't believe the sun came out. How does the sun continue to rise when my child does not walk the earth? That made no sense to me. But then I began to appreciate the sun on my face. I began to appreciate my feet in the grass because I was feeling my own existence here more than I ever had. I had been practicing these things, but I think the deep, deep pain of grief and the deep pain of suffering asked me to feel in a way that if I can feel the deepest, deepest parts of myself and I allow that feeling to come through, it expands my level to feel everything else, which means joy, which means that I actually, when we talk about feel good always, it's like we fully feel. I do feel very good. I do. I know that it's even sometimes when I hear myself talk, I'm like, but how? And I do feel very good because I have this connection to Keira, to a team of helpers, my higher self, God, the angels. To be honest, I don't know I don't know. I just know I know what I feel. I know there's not really words to put to this team that are helping me because they're feeding me a beautiful energy. But it's almost like everything had to strip away for me to be open and to experience this feeling beyond what my mind could have ever imagined. And I went from minute to minute survival, I say this a lot. I was brought into the present moment. Grief and suffering, it will bring you right here if you let it. It will bring you right here if you let it, right in this moment, because the past was too hard to look at, because the memories hurt, and the future without her it could have killed me, my thoughts. And at some point, I had had enough practice to know that I didn't need to attach to my thoughts, that I could just observe them and say, there's that thought again. And she helped me with this. She did. She said, we don't know. You don't know if she's going to miss this. We actually don't even know what's going to happen. It's not. So when I say we don't know if she's going to miss this, we really have no idea what's happening beyond this moment. And so it was at some point, I came to the present moment. And gosh, that's where all the beauty lives. That's where the freedom lives. That's where the peace is. That's where the love is. That is where everything is happening. And I couldn't go back and I couldn't go forward. All I had was now. And I had been hearing the power of now, be here now. I had been practicing stay present. What is my intention of every yoga practice? To be here in this moment. But nothing asked me to actually be in this moment, like my child dying. And so I came into the present moment. I sat with the pain. I went into deep, deep, deep grief. And my body fully felt this pain without distraction. And I would tell myself, of course you feel this way. I would put my hand on my heart and say, of course you feel this way. I wasn't trying to fix it. The grief, the pain, it was a slow burn, a fire. It was a fire that burned everything about who I thought I was to the ground. And I'm telling you, I stood on solid footing when this happened. I was pretty solid, so I didn't think I had anything to burn to the ground. And so when this happened, burning my identity, Becky Bradley, feeling this intense, intense emotion, opened me up to hear Keira, to see the signs, to see the connection, to allow that pain to move through me. And that I wasn't a victim, that I would say, I couldn't believe it was happening to me. It was like watching someone else's life. Like, how is this our life? Like, how the heck has this happened? But it was never like, why wasn't it somebody else? I did feel jealous of people that had their families together. And jealousy is actually not something that I would feel. I would have rather been anybody but me. But what happened is I started to feel Keira's presence pretty much immediately, and I simultaneously didn't want to live. But what happened is the two things started going side by side. So I would have this intense grief of my humanity, and at the same time, this deep connection, a feeling of beautiful light coursing through my veins. And that was Keira. Because when you see signs and when you feel connection, it is a feeling. And she was feeding me this beautiful energy. And it didn't make sense because at one moment I'd want to die, but then I'd have that same beautiful feeling because it was a massive spiritual awakening through my heartbreak. And that heartbreak, it was all part of it. And I can still be like that. I can still get sad, but it's not as deep as it was, not even close. Because most of the time, I live in peace. I live connected to her. My body is no longer trying to figure out what happened. Now my mind, my spirit, my heart, my soul, if you're watching my journey, I don't feel the separation. I know it doesn't make sense, but that is the truth. She is with me now more than ever. She's here speaking through me. She helps me do this. She tells me what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right. Not that I'm doing anything wrong. I don't mean to say wrong because I don't think we could do anything wrong. I'm always doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but will steer me in another way and just keep reminding me. And I think it's so beautiful. She helped me. She would say, it's energy. It just needs to move, like the emotion, the pain. And I was like, this is my child. It's not energy. But it was energy, and it was a massive surrender. I had to surrender many things before this. I was very surrendered. I wasn't worried about anything. Anything would happen. I was very much like, oh, I guess this is supposed to happen, get money stolen from me. Okay. If I would have something, somebody says they're going to meet up with me and don't, okay, I'm very surrendered. I mean, that sounds like very small. But the one thing I held on to was my children. And I was asked to surrender them too. And I had to trust that they would walk through their own healing paths. And so I expanded by completely surrendering everything, a non-attachment to anything. And I fully allowed the pain, and my connection to Keira deepened. And like I said, the illusion of separation began to dissolve. I was not separate from Keira. I was not separate from even my animals. I can connect my thoughts to other people's all the time. I see things ahead of time because I am connected to everything. I get shown in the physical world an insane amount of connection and signs because I'm connected. The energy is all connected. And so even though I wasn't trying to cure Keira, she came anyways to save me. And that grief, that pain is what allowed this massive opening. Through that surrender came peace. Through that trust came expansion. So through grief came the knowing that heaven is not a place that we wait for when we die. It is felt now. It is here in this moment. I experience heaven on earth. It's lived, it's real, it's here for those of us that are ready to remember the truth. That's why I say these are real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. That means I'm telling you a real story. I'm interviewing people on this podcast who have suffered and are beginning to wake up. Real stories. These aren't people that have been practicing this connection their entire lives. I know everybody's real, but I like to say that these are people like you and me that are experiencing a massive shift in humanity. Massive. I know you hear and feel the words that I'm speaking, where we start to see the connections everywhere. When we surrender, when we allow ourselves to feel the depth of our humanity, we have to allow it to come in, because there's nothing that you could do to me at this point that I am afraid of, because I've shown that I survive even death, because I can't actually die. I'm not afraid of anything in this moment and the moments before. Maybe that will change tomorrow. I don't think so. So I just want to just one more time, like really say that I am going to expand on this idea of like some of the tools that I use, like walking in nature and, journaling. That'll be next week. But I want to tell you guys, if you're in grief, early grief, deep grief, suffering, any kind of suffering, just know you're not alone, you're not broken. And the way that you feel in this moment, we only feel it now. It does not mean that it's going to be like that forever. You are opening to something bigger. You are expanding. You are being helped by a team of angels that are actually speaking straight through me right now. So I can 100% tell you they are coming through me. So my team, your team, our team, they are speaking through. I really appreciate this time today to talk to you, that you listened. More to come. If this episode resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me on Instagram at Feel Good Always Podcast. You could totally message me over there. And then if you scroll up in your app or scroll down, I don't know, and click the 5 stars and leave a review, I would totally appreciate it. That's how this pushes out here. So thank you for listening to this truth that has just poured through me today and continues to be guided by Keira. If you heard something that you needed to hear, that is your team helping you. I'm sure you did hear something. And just remember that we do not have to wait for peace. It will come. Connection is coming. We were not meant to do this life alone. And even in the deepest pain, especially there, you are being opened and loved and guided, and you are connected. So until next time, may you feel the truth of all that I have said today. May you feel that truth so deeply inside of you. I know I feel it. So feel good always.